I have great pleasure in welcoming the Prime Minister of Canada, His Excellency Stephen Harper. I invite him to address the General Assembly. Please.
Bonsoir.
Good evening, Mr. President, Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. For me, it's an honor and a great pleasure to speak once again to this General Assembly.
Canada has supported the United Nations and its institutions in the pursuit of world peace. On many occasions, Canadians have put their lives on the line to deter active conflict between peoples. It's a duty we accept, and it's a record of which we are proud. Today, there are many embattled parts of the world where the suffering of local populations and the threats to global security deserve our urgent attention. And I could easily use my entire time here on any one of them. There are, however, other areas of service to humanity. It is to some of these that I wish to speak tonight. For la paix ne se résume.
Because peace cannot be summarized as being the absence of war.
Than the absence of war. Where human misery abounds, where grinding poverty is the rule, where justice is systematically denied, there is no real peace, only the seeds of future conflict. Bien entendu,
Of course, poverty and injustice are not the only root causes of war. All we have to do is to look at the world today to realize this.
How the worst of human nature, perverse ideologies, religious extremism, and the lust for power and plunder can rob people in so many places of property, of hope, and of life itself. That's why Canada has always been ready and willing to join with other civilized peoples and to challenge affronts to the international order, affronts to human dignity itself, such as are today present in Eastern Europe, particularly Ukraine, in the Middle East, Iraq, Syria, and elsewhere, and of course many parts of Africa. Canada's positions on these issues are well known, and we will continue to contribute to the extent to which we are able in assisting our friends and allies in the international community to deal with these grave challenges. But while these extreme situations are being confronted, other problems, pandemics, climate change, and of course the problems of underdevelopment remain. Et nous avons la conviction.
And we are convinced that an effort is never in vain if we give the population an alternative to conflict, as well as the possibility for a better life for themselves and for their family.
4. Seek a world where freedom, democracy, human rights, and the rule of law are respected. We hold these things to be intrinsically right and good. And we also believe that they are the necessary foundation for a better world for more people. Necessary for prosperity, and with prosperity comes hope, and with hope, the greater inclination of free peoples everywhere to find peaceful solutions to the things that divide them. Indeed, we believe that freedom, prosperity, and peace form a virtuous circle. Pour cette raison,
And that is why the growth of trade between countries and the delivery of specific development assistance for populations, simple and practical assistance, that is what characterizes the action of our government at the global level.
The growth of trade between nations and the delivery of effective development assistance to ordinary people. Simple, practical aid. These are the things that have become the signatures of our government's outreach in the world. Trade means jobs, growth, and opportunities. It has made great nations out of small ones. The story of my own country, Canada, is a case in point. Historically, Trade has built our country just as today it is reshaping our world. Trade means ordinary people can support their families and even dare to dream of something much more. Notre gouvernement a travaillé.
Our government has worked hard in order to set up a vast network of modern trade agreements.
Concluded, tear down the barriers of tariff and excise, and enlarge markets and opportunities for buyers and sellers alike. Canada has now established such links with countries that today possess more than a quarter of the world's people and nearly half the world's business. And our free trade network will grow larger yet. This is not, by the way, an exclusive club for wealthy nations. Le Canada a déjà.
Canada has already liberalized trade with countries that are better known for their determination to succeed than for the size of their economies. And in doing so, they paved the way towards Canadian markets and elsewhere. We have no reason to stop now. Like my colleague, President Macky Sall said from Senegal, assistance is necessary for development, but more than assistance, we need investment. And he's right.
No matter how freely we trade, millions of people will, for some time to come, need a helping hand. Easily the most important example, and the one closest to my heart, is the worldwide struggle upon which so many of you have been engaged. L'initiative sur la santé.
The initiative for the health of mothers and children.
Initiative. Saving the lives of the world's most vulnerable mothers, infants, and children must remain a top global priority. That is, the world must honor the commitments made in this very room to mothers and children in the year 2000. And there has been remarkable progress. Des vaccins peu.
Vaccines, which are not very costly, as well as a concerted effort on the part of many partners, means that a larger number of children are vaccinated today more than ever before. As the importance of food is better understood, more and more children survive, and thus, thanks to simple techniques which are easily accessible and not very costly, millions of mothers and children who 14 years ago would have died, but today not only do they survive, but they thrive.
Especially of the 2010 meeting of world leaders at Muskoka that raised about $7.5 billion, $2 billion of it from private donors. Based on that, the United Nations launched what the Secretary General called the Every Woman, Every Child Initiative, with the goal of saving 16 million lives by 2016. An important aspect of this work has been to monitor both the receipt of monies pledged and how they are used. The assurance of full accountability has allowed recipients to plan with greater certainty and donors to give with confidence. With His Excellency, whom you just heard, President Kikwete of Tanzania, it was my honor to co-chair the World Health Organization's Information and Accountability Commission linked to this initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, on this, we have a clear vision, and that vision is achievable. Nous savons comment aider un...
We know how to help a large number of those vulnerable people. We have seen what it is possible to do. We simply want to combine patience and willingness and move to action.
Vulnerable people, we've seen what can be done. We want, therefore, simply to rally the passion and the will to make it happen. We're preventing, and we can prevent, more deaths of thousands of children every day from easily preventable causes. We can stop thousands of mothers dying in childbirth who, with relatively little intervention, would survive. We also know who we need to be working with. New partnerships. Partnerships that bring together governments, agencies of the UN, the World Health Organization, the World Food Program, UNICEF, with the private sector. partnerships that are producing real results and taking us to new heights of excellence. Here, je pense au réseau.
I'm thinking about the network for the health of new mothers and children in Canada.
And Child Health Network in Canada, a group that represents a broad base of Canadian civil society and are key implementing partners on the ground. As many of you know, this past May in Toronto, Canada hosted the world's leading actors on this subject. We heard the success stories. For example, the Micronutrient Initiative, through which 180 million children received vitamin A, pills costing pennies, but that dropped child mortality by 25%. We heard about the Vaccine Alliance, Gavi, and how during the 3-year period between 2010 and 2013, immunization saved the lives of 2 million children. We have partnerships to deliver better nutrition and partnerships to deliver better measurement, because vital statistics are critical. You can't manage what you can't measure. Et dans cette mission,
and in that mission, our progress is measured in terms of precious lives that are saved.
Progress in precious lives saved. So every child needs a birth certificate. Nous avons également entendu.
We also heard that the world now has a greater obligation to be accountable, not only on the enormous amounts of money that are promised, but also on the way in which that money was spent.
This was clear. We have seen success and we have momentum. Saving the lives of children and mothers is a fight we can win. To get it done, 2 things are needed now: the political focus and renewed financial commitment. J'invite donc fortement l'Assemblée.
And I strongly urge the Assembly to ensure that after 2015, when the development agenda will evolve, the health of mothers, newborns, and children will remain a priority.
In the strongest terms, to ensure that in the evolving post-2015 development agenda, maternal, newborn, and child health remain a clear and top priority. That and one of a limited number of priorities. That is the political focus we need. Then there is the financial commitment. I know we all have many competing priorities. Mais nous avons fait tellement.
But we have traveled so far that stopping now would be a tragedy.
That to stop now would be a tragedy. I must tell you, I was very encouraged this afternoon at the Secretary General's Every Woman, Every Child event, when President Kim of the World Bank and other leaders announced new financing for the bank's global financing facility for every woman, every child. This facility will help developing countries access the financing required to improve their health systems.
I was pleased to announce that Canada will financially support the mechanism for global funding to support the Every Woman, Every Child initiative of the World Bank.
Announced that Canada will financially support the World Bank's global financing facility for every woman, every child. Nous invitons
We therefore now invite other countries to do the same because to offer viable solutions in order to prevent the tragic death of women and children. To do so, we have to increase budget allocations from donors as well as developing countries.
Gentlemen, in closing, let me just say this. There are many individual countries and many specific causes that will rightly occupy our deliberations here this week. Let us also not forget to look beyond those crises at the long-term opportunities and efforts that can truly transform the world. We have it in our power to create a better kind of world for our children's children than we have today, and we should. For it was never the intention of the founders of the United Nations, Canada being one of them, that ours would be a world where terrorists could get the resources necessary to sow death and destruction, but where workers and families could not get jobs and opportunities, or where mothers and children could not obtain the necessities required to live and to thrive. The world that Canada strives for is the world that the founders of the United Nations wanted from the beginning, as boldly articulated in their Declaration of 1942. I quote, "A world where life, liberty, independence, and religious freedom are defended, where human rights and justice are preserved, and where all join in a common struggle against the savage and brutal forces seeking to subjugate the world." In such a world, there can be prosperity for the impoverished, justice for the weak, and for the desperate, that most precious of all things, hope. It's easy to look at the many problems of the world today and become despondent. Yet for all of our failings, there has been, for most of humanity, tremendous progress in my lifetime. Therefore, I'm enough of an optimist to think that because we can create a more prosperous, fair, and hopeful world, not only should we, but indeed, I believe we will find the will to do so. Thank you very much for your attention. Merci beaucoup.
On behalf